Sports Talk Line Network is proud to bring you Joshua Griffith.
Nate?
Yeah, no.
Oh, we're good? We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Oh. So I am so very happy to welcome back to the show Vancouver Whitecaps CEO and Sporting Director, Axel Schuster.
I want to cover playoff hockey in Vancouver. I want the fans to enjoy and experience playoff hockey in Vancouver. I want the Canucks to win a Stanley Cup for this city.
Just, as I said, wild. It's not what you would expect, other than good football, which the NFL, I got to say, they're doing a heck of a job of delivering.
You can't diminish what he's done. And this isn't just to be an honorary award. I think the numbers that he's put together on both sides are warranted of an MVP.
You went right for the crest and gave it a big kiss as you were running towards the fans. It was
so funny, honestly, like, I always was laughing about players who do that because I'm like, come on, stop this shit. And it just happens out of emotion.
Here's your host, Joshua Griffith.
Hello, this is the Unnamed Sports Show here on the Sports Talk Line Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. I'm, of course, your host, Joshua Griffith, on this beautiful Thursday, April 7th. There's lots going on right now in the world of sports. It's the Masters weekend. Major League Baseball gets in the swing of things. The NBA and the NHL are wrapping up their seasons. Major League Soccer is kicking off. It's going good. We're in match week 5 or 6 right now for some teams. Could go on and on. It's a good month for sports right now. Another league that is heading towards their playoffs is the Western Hockey League. And what better person to have on today to help me figure out what's going on than Lizz Child, who writes for WHL on the Area 51 Sports Network. So I'm going to chat with Liz, find out who her favorites are, what we can expect going into the playoffs. Then we're going to chat a little bit about how she got into covering hockey, her work with the San Jose Sharks and San Jose Barracuda, the farm team there, and some of her favorite memories and interviews so far. But of course, before we get to that, we need to take care of some housekeeping. So make sure to hit that like button down at the bottom, leave me a comment. Of course, subscribe to the Sports Talk Line YouTube channel. And of course, follow me on Twitter at Joshua Griffith0. Okay, now that we have all that fun stuff out of the way, let's get right to my conversation with Lizz Child. All right, so I'm so thrilled to be joined now by Lizz Child, who covers the Portland Winterhawks and everything else WHL for the Area 51 network. She's a member of the Third Line podcast. Liz, how are you? Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm pretty great this morning.
Yeah, it's a beautiful morning here on Vancouver Island. I don't know how you're doing. I think you're down in Portland, are you not?
No, I'm actually in California.
So you're in California, so I hope it's sunny.
It is beautiful out today, actually. So.
Well, you do a ton of work. Not only do you cover the WHL, you cover the San Jose Barracudas. You do some work for the San Jose Sharks as well. I'll just start with that. Like, how did you get into all of this?
Well, every time someone asks me, I have to shout out Paul Figler because when Dub Network, took a little pause in the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, he lost a lot of fantastic writers that I'd looked up to the entire time I've been, following the WHL as soon as I found Dub Network as a site. And he started posting saying he needed writers, and I sent him an email basically just saying, I have zero experience. I have no portfolio, anything to show you, but I love this team. I love this league. But if you want me to help and not even write, I'll do whatever you need. And he covering Portland, and I haven't really looked since.
Well, that's awesome. So how did you move into covering like the WHL? Like why did you settle on the Portland Winterhawks?
So the team that actually got me to start watching hockey. Like, I grew up in California.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up mainly in the Bay Area. So you'd think, San Jose Sharks, all of that.
You would think not even hockey. If you grew up in San Jose in the Bay Area, you're thinking football, maybe basketball, maybe you're a Golden State Warriors fan or something like that, just across the bay. But
well, that's the ironic thing is I did grow up as a football fan.
Mhm.
I despised hockey, and I know we touched on that a little bit yesterday. But I grew up being like, why the hell would anyone watch hockey? Like, no, I don't want to go do that. And then in high school, I kind of went, what's this? What's the sport that I've been ignoring my entire life? But I mean, even before that, I was kind of like a traitor. I am a Seattle Seahawks fan. So I grew up, 49ers this, 49ers that, Raiders this, Raiders that, and I went, Seattle. That's my team. So I've been watching, Seattle football for my entire life, 2004, 2005. Man, I hate the Steelers with a passion ever since then. I remember my 5th grade teacher was a Steelers fan, and she would not let me live it down. And I'm like, ma'am, I am 10 years old. Why are you being mean? But yeah, and then I started watching a little bit of the NHL, and I had a friend point out to me that every guy that I was like, man, I like watching him, I like watching that guy, he's really fun. She was just like, they're all former Winterhawks, right? They all played for the Portland Winterhawks. And I went, what the hell is a Winterhawk? Like, what are you talking about? And I looked into the team, and literally from there, I was hooked. I was like, okay, this is my sport now.
That's so cool. So, like, obviously, you mentioned, you're big into other sports, and you were like, hockey. What is this abomination on ice? Like, how did you get into like sports? Like growing up, like were you big into other sports? You played them a lot. You were just around sports. I mean, I know for me, my dad like plunked me in front of the CBC Leaf streams every Saturday. That's how I kind of got big into hockey. So.
It's actually really weird because my family's not big into sports. Like my dad's a Seahawks fan. He's born and raised in Washington, so he at least has a reason. My mom couldn't care one way or another. Like you couldn't pay her. Like I took her to an Arizona Coyotes game once, so the only player she knows their name is Jacob Chikrin. Everything else she's just like, I don't know, that one guy that you talked about that one time, and I'm like, oh, there's a lot of those. But I mean, I grew up, I guess, kind of like every other kid. I played a few sports here and there. I was, I did gymnastics, I did karate, I did softball. I never did soccer. I'm not big on trying to coordinate my feet and like running. My brain can't process that. I did a lot of skating, not hockey related, but like I loved being on the ice, which again is weird to me on why I just hated hockey with a passion. Like I was consistently begging my parents, can we go to the rink? Can we go to the rink? But like, I hate that sport.
But you didn't want a stick in your hand. You just wanted to.
Yeah.
Were you doing figure skating? Or you just loved skating on the ice?
No, I just loved skating. Like, I mean, I think when I was really little, I wanted to get into figure skating, and then I just like kind of accepted the fact that I am legitimately just not coordinated enough for that. So I just loved skating, and I still do. I still try and go when I can. Just being on the ice. I constantly get asked, "Oh, have you played hockey before?" And I'm like, "No, believe me, you don't want to see that. Like, nobody wants that." But yeah, and I don't really know how I got so. I don't want to say sports obsessed, but I don't know really when it happened where it just like the switch in my brain went, all right, we're doing this. Like, we're just going to jump in and focus all on it. But I mean, as far as watching sports after playing them, I watched a lot of golf growing up, which I think we touched on a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And we have the Masters going on as we speak right now.
Yes. My watching golf has fallen off quite a bit just because, I mean, as you said, I cover so many teams that for most other sports, I just don't have the time anymore. But, you know, I will be a Rory McIlroy fan until the day I die. I don't care. Don't care how he's doing in the season, but yeah, 100%.
That's not a bad pick, too. He's a pretty good golfer, and he's fun to watch. Well, Liz, that's so cool, kind of like how you you moved up and you didn't really have a passion for hockey, but now you're so ingrained in it. Everything I see coming from your timeline is just complete WHL stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I get all of my coverage from the Area 51 and the WHL writing that you, Chris, Jess, Adam, everyone else does. They're just such great work. I know I'm missing people. Kevin, Jonathan, yeah,
Brian.
Brian, thank you. You guys are all doing so much great work, and the WHL are kind of getting into their playoffs right now. We have some teams that have already clinched in the Western Conference. That's kind of where we're going to focus on, because I know that's what you cover, and that's kind of what we cover here on the western side of Canada. So we have 5 teams clinched so far, and the Portland Winterhawks team you cover, they have clinched already as well, with 91 points, sitting in third. What do you make of their season?
Well, I mean, anyone who's watched them this year knows the first month and a half was rough. The team looked like they were still trying to figure out, who they were, like, just playing together. Defense was, I don't want to say non-existent, but I mean, it was difficult to watch.
You can say non-existent. It was pretty. It kind of was non-existent.
Yeah, it was rough. And a bunch of people at the beginning of the season, I'm not going to name names because specifically one knows who they are, were telling me, oh, the Winterhawks need to sell. They just need to rebuild and start over. And I was sitting there like, no, just wait. Give them some time. They'll get it together. I mean, if you listen to any of the guys talk before the season started, they were so confident in the team that they had going in this year. And I was like, just give them a bit of time. They'll find the groove. And then mid-November, something clicked, and they went on like an impressive point streak, and it was incredible. Acquiring Taylor Gauthier in January was massive. I mean, I think anyone who follows me very closely knows I have my own opinions on that, but I will never deny that he's incredible. He's a great goaltender. He deserves, every bit of praise that he's gotten. And it's been it feels like a roller coaster of a year, but it literally just has only gone up as the season's gone along.
Well, I wasn't going to go here right away, but you already mentioned goaltending, and I'm not surprised by that, because you seem to have some kind of goaltender abomination, you're just like a fan of goaltenders. Like, you've had on Campbell Arnold on your show, and then recently Dante Giannuzzi, which was a fantastic interview, by the way. What is it so much that you like about goalies?
So I love watching goaltenders. I think it's my biggest thing, because my brain can't process what they do fast enough. So I'm just constantly sitting there in awe of everything like a goaltender does, which is like you'll basically never hear me say a bad word about a goaltender, because no matter what they do, I'm just like, I couldn't do it, so why am I going to talk about it? Why am I going to be like, oh man, he totally should have had that? Like, I wouldn't have had that. The puck could be like flying at me at 2 miles an hour, and I'd still be going, what was that?
Where's it coming?
So, that's a big part of it, but also just in my time talking to players, I've kind of just found that goaltenders tend to, I guess, partially be more willing to communicate with you, but they also tend to just have a different mindset than other players. And I appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I covering soccer, I definitely have drawn towards like watching the keepers a bit, and noticed too that they're a little bit more chatty than some of the other players. So I'm not surprised to see it's the same thing on the ice. So I'm joined by Lizz Child here on the Unnamed Sports Show. So Lizz, you obviously cover the WHL, but you also do some work with the San Jose Barracuda and the San Jose Sharks here and there. What's your most memorable part about working with all of these different organizations so far in your just young and up and coming career?
Well, like you said, it hasn't been very long. I've only been covering hockey in general since summer of 2020, so we're just approaching 2 years here. and I've only been covering the Barracuda and the Sharks since January, so hasn't been very long. I do work 50-50 for the Sharks, so I've been around the organization for I think 3 years now, 3-4 years. But most memorable moment, I feel like I should be prepared for this because I ask this question to the guys every time I talk to them.
I don't know. I was listening to your podcast and I just basically wrote down and stole your guys' questions. I'm gonna ask, and I'm gonna ask some food questions. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm prepared for those. I always have responses, guys. What you don't always hear is me telling them my thoughts. I mean, and this is gonna feel really obvious, I think, for those who know me very well, but Dante Giannuzzi was my first interview with a player that I ever have done, and we did it in January of 2021. He wasn't even. Actually, I think he had just gotten back to Portland to do some training, and I was stupidly nervous. I was sitting at a park outside because, I don't know, I just needed to not be in my apartment. So I was outside and I was freaking out. Also, don't ever try and do a phone interview outside when you have to record audio. That was the stupidest thing I've ever done.
I've made the mistake a couple times before. Yeah.
But yeah, and he was great. I mean, I think we talked for way longer than people would have liked. Like it was a fairly long talk. I was nervous. If Dante was nervous, I couldn't tell, but I was sitting there being like, what do I do? Who do I what's going on? And then looking back on it now, I'm just like, I think that's where my whole I want to do player features came from. Which I'm still nervous as hell before talking to anybody, but it's what kind of kicked it off for me. Like I had already written some stuff before that, but that was kind of where my brain went. Wait, okay, all right, let's go, let's do this. And I guess it seems kind of small for a lot of people because they're like, oh, you talk to a WHL guy, like it's fine, but it felt huge for me.
No, I think that everyone has to start off somewhere. It's not like we're all gonna walk in and get an interview with Wayne Gretzky, right?
For sure, that'd be nice.
That would be nice. He's definitely on the list of people I'd love to interview and have on my show. But when you start off, you definitely got to set your sights a little bit smaller. And I've found that some of the best interviews that I've gotten are with players that are either up and coming or ones that you wouldn't even think about, or people that you wouldn't even think about. Like one of my favorite interviews was with a Canadian Olympic snowboarder in halfpipe, Mercedes Nichols, and she was so much fun to have on my show. I didn't know what I was getting into. Like I snowboard, but having her on my show and just getting to pick her brain about the little things and getting to talk snowboarding, or whether it be hockey, whether you're talking to a hockey player, like it's just so much fun, and you can really deep dive and get a sense of what these players are doing. So that's so cool about you having Dante G. So that was your second time talking to him on the podcast there for Third Line?
That was my fourth time talking.
It was your fourth time. Oh, okay.
I took a little bit of a backseat in the podcast is that, Adam and Chris had never spoken to him before. And I'm like, if I keep asking for him, at some point he's going to be like, I'm not talking to you anymore.
And you're like, okay, guys, fire away. It's your turn to ask questions. Good.
Exactly. I'm like, I don't know what else I can ask him at this point that either I haven't asked him before or that he hasn't heard 30,000 times. So, yeah.
So on the complete opposite, what have you had a moment that you're like, oh, that was terrible? Because I know for me, the very first question I asked in Vancouver Whitecaps media to Lucas Cavallini, I got a death stare right back. I fumbled through a question. He didn't score. It was the season opener, and he didn't score. He had some great chances. And I mentioned, I was like, hi, Lucas. I noticed you had some great chances, but didn't score. How was that? And I got just this terrible death stare back. Thankfully, the cameras were rolling, so I was able to screenshot it and I have a picture of it I can go forward and look back and say, okay, don't ask stupid questions. But what have you ever had one of those moments yet, Liz?
I've actually had two.
Okay, two. Okay, I've had a couple. I'm just sharing one.
Well, I mean,
this is
major
my
ones.
show. Okay.
Two major ones. One was actually twice, so in theory there's three, but two of them were the same thing. Back when we were doing Zoom post games with the Winterhawks, for some reason last season my brain could not remember if the Winterhawks were playing Spokane or Seattle in their next game. So twice in two separate post-game interviews, I asked Mike Johnston, like, what's the message to the team going into your game against Spokane? And he just like and looked at the camera and was just like, we play Seattle next. And I was just like, I have it written down. My brain just nothing. And then I think like 2 weeks later or something, I was like, so how are you feeling going into your game against Seattle? And he goes, yeah, we play Spokane. And I was just, all right, I'm done. Like, I clearly cannot ask this man a question ever again. And then out here in San Jose, I think just 3 games ago or something, I asked the Barracuda head coach, Roy Sommer, I asked him, so why is Anthony Botetto in a cage? And he goes, you mean Antoine Morand? Botetto's not in a cage. And I went, oh my gosh. I swear before we had gone down for post game, I asked at least 2 people, like, it's Botetto, right? It's Botetto. And I'm pretty sure they said, I think it's Morand. And my brain went, okay, Morand. And then my mouth went, Botetto. So, yeah, I've had those moments when, and having head coaches just stare at you like, wow, you have no idea what you're talking about. It's a moment for sure.
It is, but it's a learning moment for all of us. And I think that you can go across the board and ask anyone who covers any sport, and they're going to give you a couple funny moments too of when they got that. Liz, I've had such a blast chatting with you here. I want to get a couple more questions in here before I let you go. You're, like I said, you're taking off. The Third Line podcast is basically where I go for all of my NHL news. I'm covering I'm watching all of the WHL coverage on Area 51 network with you guys. What's your goals for the future? Like, I know you really love the AHL aspect of things and prospects, but are you're looking to get like into covering an NHL team? Is that your ultimate, or you maybe even another sport or something that we don't even know about?
So I actually am working a little backwards from most people. I want to work in junior hockey. I want to stay in the juniors, the prospects.
Yeah.
That's where, my passion is. That's what I relate everything back to. Even when I talk about, NHL and AHL guys, my first thought is, okay, where did they play juniors? Where was their junior hockey? So, I'd love to do something in that realm, whether it's with a team, with a site, sticking around Area 51 Sports Network and WHL and Area 51 is big for me. I think we're doing some great stuff there, and I'm really excited to see where we go. But yeah, as far as I feel like a lot of people expect me to be like, oh, I want to cover the NHL, I want to do this, I want to do that, but I want to go backwards. I'm just kind of in the wrong area right now.
No, well, and that's the thing. I mean, like, it's so fascinating, because everybody, wants to get, I want to cover the big time and I want to write about NHL players and stuff. But like, there's so much more fascinating stories and interesting like side pieces that you can get from covering junior hockey, and you get to see these players' developments. And when they get to the NHL, you can still, take note of them and stuff. But you get to watch and write about and document what they're doing in their ascent to greatness, which is really cool. I found as a sports writer, like, I know I've followed Thomas Assal, the Whitecaps keeper, for years now, and I've been keeping notes on him, and to see him get the starting nod for the Whitecaps this year, just like it was kind of cool. Like, it went a little extra.
Yeah. And I think for me, like, one of those other big moments was just, Seth Jarvis. I've watched him play since he was 15, 16. And so talking to him at the Neely Cup for the Winterhawks this past season, which is their training camp, I talked to him in, I believe it was September, and then turning around and getting to talk to him in November, the day of his like 10th game in the NHL, where his PLC kicked in and they were just like, we're not sending you back now. the big moment for me was that they told me before they told him that he was confirmed playing and they were keeping him, and they're like, don't tell him when you talk to him because we don't know if coaches have told him yet. But by the way, and I just was sitting there like, this is what just happened. This has come so far. And so being able to see him do that and succeed and continue to watch all the success he has is huge. And I love seeing that kind of growth in all of these guys. Like, it's what makes the sport, I think, for me, a little more exciting.
Oh, that absolutely. I would 100% agree. Well, Liz, there's a couple things we didn't touch on. They didn't even touch on my local Vancouver Island team, the Victoria Royals and Bailey Peach. Actually, you know what? No,
I have plenty of time.
Okay, well, can you tell me why Bailey Peach has been so amazing for the Victoria Royals? They might not make it into the playoffs. I know they're battling right now with the Giants and Spokane Chiefs to get that final spot, but Bailey Peach has been amazing this year.
He has been absolutely outstanding. I don't know why he's been as phenomenal as he has, but I just think that he brought something new to that team that they maybe were missing, just a little bit of that. I don't want to say that fight, but I think definitely if you listen to him talk about, getting waived and not knowing where he was going to play this season and not everything, he definitely just had that motivation of, I'm going to come back with a chip on my shoulder and I'm going to prove to everybody that, you messed up by not keeping me, you messed up by not picking me up. Like, Victoria got it right, and I think that's something that they needed. Also, don't say, oh, I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs to any of the guys from Vancouver, from Victoria, because they are dead set that they're in this. So I'm looking forward to it. I talked to Gannon LaRock yesterday.
Yeah.
And they're confident. They feel it, and I can't wait.
Well, they're tied with Vancouver. Obviously, Vancouver's got some games in hand, so I think it's going to come down. But I think Vancouver has they play Portland this weekend, do they not?
Probably. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say. So you're supposed to be the WGL expert.
There's so
trying to
many
think I have my
games
notes
teams
right.
that I'm trying to follow around with. I'm like game day. I'm like, yeah, all right, that sounds about right. But yeah, and those are going to be some big games coming up for them. It's crazy for me to think that Vancouver has 6 games left to play. Like, everyone else has 3 or 4, and Vancouver's like, we still have half a season.
Yeah. So yeah, they definitely hold things in their own hand there. Well, Liz, thanks so much for joining me today. What are you working on now? When are we going to get some more great interviews on the Third Line podcast here?
Well, we're working on getting Tyler Palmer. Speaking of the Victoria Royals, we're working on getting Tyler Palmer. Again, it's one of those. I kind of snuck in there and swooped on the podcast and talked to him first. So it's going to be a little bit of a wait, just so that we're not bombarding him with like request after request. But I mean, he's going to be a hot topic here coming up. He's been fantastic. And then we have a couple others, mostly goaltenders, just because Chris and I kind of have a monopoly on who, when, where. But we might have some forwards coming at you here soon too. So
man, there's some skaters. Okay.
But yeah, so we're looking forward to that. The podcast is rolling all of a sudden, so it's exciting.
Well, it was great to chat with you. Like I said, I really enjoyed the podcast, and I really enjoy all of you guys' coverage on the Area 51 network for the Western Hockey League. Liz, thanks again for joining me. Have to have you on again as we get closer to the WHL finals in the West here, and then when we go to the Memorial Cup, because that's always such a fun tournament.
Oh yeah, I cannot wait. I'm so happy we're having one again this year. So
yes, things are almost back to normal.
Oh, don't say that too loud. They'll hear you.
Okay, there we go. I knocked out one. All right, that has been Lizz Child here on the Unnamed Sports Show. All right, so that was so much fun chatting with Liz about the WHL. We really actually only scratched the surface on the WHL because we spent so much time talking about how she got into hockey and covering it, and just about some of the other stuff with the Portland Winterhawks. And we didn't even touch base that the San Jose Sharks have let go of their longtime general manager, Doug Wilson. So that's big news coming from the NHL right now. Stay tuned for more as it breaks. But I really hope that everyone enjoyed that interview, get caught up with Liz and what she's doing for the WHL on Area 51 Network. So make sure to check all of your WHL coverage out there. It's a great site. They're doing a lot of great work. Might be a little bit biased because I do some work for them, but hey, what can I say? Thank you so much for joining me here today. This has been episode 76 of the Unnamed Sports Show. I have been, of course, your host, Joshua Griffith, here on the Sports Talk Line Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. Make sure to check out the rest of the great shows on Sports Talk Line. Make sure to check out the 90 Plus podcast, where me and Ben Reddy break down twice a week what's happening in the world of the Vancouver Whitecaps. Also, we have lots of great content going on the Sports Talk Line website, including lots of great web stories, getting you caught up with Major League Baseball that's getting in the swing of things, and the NFL draft she's going to creep up on us right away. The boss man Van has you covered for all of your NFL draft coverage, so check that out. I have, of course, been your host, Joshua Griffith. Again, thank you so much for joining me today. Remember to love sports, all sports.